52 travel size segment. We're gonna pack those bags and we're gonna head to NYC. Back to the Studio 54 days, man. Disco was killing it. Bee Gees, man, were the shit. But yeah, we're gonna go back to NYC. NYC, because I had just stumbled on a new series on in Netflix that I didn't know that, and it's just my fault. I watched so much stuff that I just missed. This one kind of fell under my radar here, and it's the Andy Warhol Diaries, and I think it came out in like 2022. Came out on Netflix. I just missed it. I didn't catch it. It's good though. I mean, I enjoyed it. Six episodes. I blew through them like nothing. Uh, but again, Warhol, he's up there. He's one of those legends, and people don't appreciate the art. I get it. It's a different thing. I know that he did a lot of print and a lot of screen printing and colors and variation of colors and the Campbell soup and all that stuff. He's known for that, and people sometimes don't respect it. And, it's just it's he was into pop culture. I mean, it's pop art. Excuse me. Uh, you know, and it was talking about pop culture. Like the soup can, those awesome advertisements and those logos were timeless. Like the mobile gas, those just timeless logos. And he was just using those and paying homage to them and using those in his own way. But he had his own way. He had his own creativity, which I respect, and he had his own look, of course. You remember Andy Warhol? You remember the hair and the glasses and everything? He was he had a certain look to him. But yeah, I didn't know about this series here on Netflix. Came across it, like I said, crushed it real quick, knocked it out. Didn't know. I knew a little bit about him, about being him being shot in 1968 by one of his. 'Cause he had the was it the Warhol factory? He had it in one of his in his loft there. He had a group of friends like artists that would come. He started a team. He started doing things that would paint together. He had artists and writers, excuse me, and like people who were filmmakers and things of that nature, and just different creative people were all together in his loft apartment. And in '68, he got shot by a chick named what was her name? Valerie. Valerie. That was a good song by Steve Winwood. Um, but yeah, Valerie took him, shot at him, shot him. I think a couple times, I believe, if I'm mistaken. June of summer of '68, and she shot him, and that pretty much came to his demise later. Years later, it came to this thing with the. I think it all had to do with the gallbladder stuff that he had later in life, and but yeah, that's what they claim. That's what they were talking about. But great series, man. I enjoyed every minute of it. The cool part, I always love these things, and it's cool when they use it the right way. It's I like it when they use it in the right way, like his AI voice. They use his voice from like, you know, they captured his voice and they used his AI. And he narrated and that's really cool how he narrated the docu series. And what it is, it's from the book, the Warhol Diaries, and it's Pat. Let's see, Pat Hackett, friend of his. Him and Pat, they would talk on the phone. He would tell her they had their thing where they would. It was over 11 years of documenting this stuff and all these phone calls. What it was, they would call each other, and Andy would call her, and it was his close friend. They would talk about what he was doing with his ongoings, who he was dating, what he was into, all that, what his nightlife was like, and what he was doing. And so she kept track of all this stuff. 11 years of kind of journaling all this stuff and made the diaries, and it was great, man. Great. It started off, like I said, it started off strong with the shooting, of course, and the chick was nuts, and just that, just be careful who you let in your circle there, and he kind of learned that lesson. And so let's see, he got shot. He got shot in '68, but before all that, he came from a conservative little town in Pittsburgh, and he was, and as a teen, he just trying to figure his way. He's bullied. He had a certain look to him. He had a bulbous nose. He had his bulbous nose. Always wanted to change that, but that's what made him unique. And but as he was growing up, he knew he was a little different, and he had a way about him. And he would draw his friends, like his teenage friends. He would have them over. He come, he had the gift of drawing, and some of the people in the documentary are like the biggest, the most flattering thing somebody can do is draw you. So he had his friends. He'd have them over, and that's how he made friends. They would draw them, sketch them out. They're really cool, really nice sketches. I'm surprised he do. I wish he would have done more of that, because I thought his sketches and his drawings were from his line art was great. Man, it's clean lines. Granted, he did what he did. He shit. I wish I could be famous for doing what he did, but he did have some skills, man. So some of his line drawing, some of the sketches that people had after he passed away, some of the earlier his earlier works that they were just it blew me away how good he was with the pencil or the pen. And I wish he would have done more of that stuff. But he had some shocking art towards the end of his career. He had some shocking art. But yeah, he came from a little town in Pittsburgh, conservative town. I think he went to church. In some of his works towards the end, you can see some of the religious things come through his work. He's Catholic. Yeah, so they showed him in Pittsburgh, and then he moves to the city, moves to New York City as quick as he can, which I don't blame him. I live that close to New York City, I'd be there too, man. Fuck Pittsburgh. Um, Pittsburgh reminds me of every time I think about Pittsburgh, I think about Tom Cruise and All the Right Moves. I think about that little steel town, and I always wondered how it would be to live like that, where everybody works at the same, at the same steel mill, and you work your, I'm sure 6 to 6 shift or whatever. And I always those people always, the backbone in America. Those people always got me, and I always respected that. Getting up, doing the same thing over and over. I don't know how they do that. I worked, you know, I had many jobs growing up and working with like manufacturing, doing where you do repetition, and it's boring. I'd go crazy doing that, doing having to do the same thing over assembly line kind of thing, and I would go crazy doing that. That's why I have to have, you know, I try to find a gig that I can kind of be creative with and do stuff with because I can't sit still or be still for long, and it's tough. Even doing these things, it's hard for me to sit still. I get antsy and I want to move around and walk around, and that's why I try to tie my hands behind my back so I don't use them as much and flay them around. Yeah, but yeah, All the Right Moves was one of my favorite movies of one of my favorite Tom Cruise movies growing up. Leah Thompson in it. Like I said, they always say if you pause it just right, you can see Tom Cruise's cock in there, and that when he's like him and Leah Thompson are in his bedroom and they're gonna uh, get dirty there, and you can see his junk there if you pause it just right. If you're into that, if you're into Tom Cruise. Um, but yeah, so Pittsburgh moved to New York, and he's meeting all these people, starting to gain a little traction with his work. He's in New York, he has the soup can stuff. He starts doing all the prints of like you see the Marilyn Monroe stuff. You get to see all those things, which are iconic pieces of work. And then you know, he's a lonely guy. Throughout the whole series, man, it's pretty. Throughout the whole documentary, man, it's pretty sad, man. The dude's always alone and can never be happy, and he doesn't have a. You know, you think somebody like him would have tons of people, tons of partners and this and that, but he didn't, man. He didn't have that. He had like 2 or 3 that meant a lot to him, which was really cool, man. And one of the first ones he made was Jeb, I think it was Jeb, and they hit it off right off the bat. Jeb came from a small town as well. He came to New York trying to do the thing. He started working at Andy's factory where they brought in stars and not stars, but people wanting to be aspirations to be big and famous. Jed walked in and they made him. They liked him right off the bat, and he first started out cleaning up around there, picking up, things that take trash out, things of that nature. And then later, Andy took a liking to him, and they started hanging out, kind of dating, whatnot. And you know, uh, Jed moved in with. I think that he moved in. They were close. But again, Andy he was out there, man. He was an artist, so he was a little nutty. He's a little nutty, and Jed wanted a little more, and he didn't want or Jeb. I keep saying it was Jeb. Anyway, he kept wanting a little more, and Andy wasn't down for a little. Andy was just trying to have a good time, doing the Studio 54 scene. Just wasn't working out, man. Just didn't work out. Kind of screwed. He's kind of screwed that up. Um, Screwed up that relationship. While he was dating him, during all that time, in that era, Andy was hanging around the owner of Studio 54. They would go out and do stuff. They go to the bars and they were in the gay scene, whatnot. And Andy was always known. He was always people always looked at him, journalists stuff like looked at him like he was a straight edge guy. He didn't he didn't look like he did drugs or did anything, outside the box. And so him and the guy, the owner, I always forget that guy's name, owner of Disco Studio 54. They were hanging out. Their buddies. They're at a club, and they were with the journalist comes up and Andy's got a cocktail, drink, and Studio 54 guy is now offering him like pills and shit, and Andy's not taking him. He's just taking it, put it in his pocket, whatever. And the guy's trying to Studio 54 guys trying to give him Andy poppers. Poppers are big at this time. You cut loose, you have a good time on the poppers there. And he was trying to get him to do it and sniff it and whatnot. And this journalist that was there, kind of vulturing around them, being nosy, was like, "Oh, you're always straight edge, Andy, and you're doing drugs." And he's like, "I've never done drugs." I said, "Here's the pill that he gave me. It's crushed up in my pocket." He goes, "I didn't take it." He goes, "And as far as the poppers, I'm not inhaling. I'm just hearing it out." He goes, "But what I do drink. So, but I'm drinking, but I'm not doing anything else." So Andy was, by the way, he was a very sarcastic, dry dude. And that's why I enjoyed about him so much. Like they would ask him serious questions. You know, the media would ask him serious questions about painting, and he'd have a real smart ass answer that was short and quick. And that's what I liked about him. He was very quiet, dude. Very quiet guy. Not what you would think. That's what took me back watching this documentary. Was just he was not what I expected. I thought he was just like boisterous and loud, and he wasn't. He was just a quiet dude, man. You know, really cool. Not what I expected. Things didn't pan out too well with him and Jed. They didn't pan out, so they went their separate ways. And but before that, Jed, he was a interior designer. He was great at interior design. He started his own entire interior design company, and it flourished, man. Uh, at the end of his career, he was making millions at that job doing interior design. He had a great eye. He decorated Andy's what is it, like flat or whatever, or what are they called? Anyway, the nice apartments in New York. He did it all, did it up, made Andy spend money. Andy was always a cheapskate. He always had like plastic cookie jars, just very tacky stuff. Is what Jed would say. So he goes, I made him buy expensive things. So he had nice furniture. He turned the place upside down. It was beautiful. The work that Jed did for his apartment, but nonetheless, it didn't work out. He moved on, and Andy started seeing this guy from Paramount, a producer from Paramount, big producer from Paramount, and executive from Paramount, John Gold, and Gould, I don't know, Gould. And he's talked about throughout the picture. He's the one that Andy can't pin down, or can't seem to lock in, but he's always chasing him, and it was really nice. And the thing about that guy John was cool. Was like they showed his growing up, like in Maryland up there up north, and the whole thing, they ate lobsters and seafood and the whole thing, and they grew up in a small town where everybody knew and everything. Everybody knew you and everything. It was just really nice, and they were real well off people. Really nice family with the generations all lived there, and it was just the American, what you see in American movies is what he's lived, how his life was. The guy John that Andy was trying to date. And then through all this time, Andy's doing through all kinds of, he's going through all kinds of different, different things about him. Like his life changes, and he's trying to he becomes a model at some point. He does some model runway stuff. He's just trying to find his way because he's just, after the soup can stuff, and he just couldn't find his way, couldn't find his identity. Did some other stuff. Uh, and it just wasn't panning out, man. It just wasn't selling. He goes, he's like, all these young artists are coming in. Like Keith Haring was coming in. He was a graffiti artist, and he started blowing up. I can't remember. There was a couple other guys there that were really um, impactful on the, like, from coming from like the graffiti side of the art scene, and that was growing. And Andy was just blown away by these guys, and that's when he kind of ran into Basquiat, and which was, they became friends right off the bat. They were cool at first. They were doing collabs and stuff. They were doing great, man. They were just, became they were like, it was like a father and son kind of relationship. But like I said, towards the end, artists, they do tend to have egos, and towards the end of their relationship, they were button heads, and Basquiat kind of got away from him, and they didn't hang out anymore. But they did some collaborative stuff, and it was really cool, the stuff they'd worked on. Like you could tell it was Andy's stuff because it was like a logo, and then Basquiat would come over and do some kind of some lions, or some you know the caricatures that he does with the big heads, and it's but you could tell it was them. But it was great work, man. Nonetheless, it was great work, and I love seeing artists like that, of that stature, collaborate. It's so cool, man. It's cool. It's just to see those pieces now. It takes you back, man. It's just like, wow, these guys. And then I think Basquiat ended up dying when he was like 23. He was very young, and it was like drugs and drug overdose, I think. And but yeah, I mean, it was just a lot of information I didn't know about him. About Andy Warhol. Kind of during the Basquiat time when he was hanging out with him, Andy was always trying to reinvent himself. And one of the things he did, he created a. In fact, he was like cable access in New York. He created his own channel, not channel, but he created his own TV show, and he would interview people of fashion. He also had like a magazine too. I forget what the magazine was called. He had a magazine too, but he had TV. He was like one of the first pioneers of like TV before like MTV. This was like in the '80s, early '80s, and he would have like I said, different folks on, different stars on there, and they would talk about art or just bullshit. It was just bullshitting and just having fun with it. So they were always friends. And so he was doing, he was rubbing elbows with all the best of them, man. You name it, you knew it. Liza Minnelli, all these people that are just unbelievable. He was hanging out with them. They're just, hanging out. He goes, sometimes I'd be there and I just feel like I didn't fit in because I was just this artist, this failed. I felt like I was a failed artist, just hanging out with all these fancy people. And then he got to, it was funny to see him. He got invited to the inauguration of Reagan, and he goes, it was just funny to see him in the sea of the people, and he kind of stood out. But he said he enjoyed, he enjoyed it. He enjoyed himself. He goes, I didn't, I'm always been a Democrat my whole life, and he goes, but on this day, it felt good to be around. I felt like a Republican. I felt fancy. I felt, uh, important. It's just funny the way he described it. If you got to watch the documentary, it's just funny the way he describes it. He had a way about his words, and again, it's all from the diary, so it's all his words. And at the end of the documentary, they kind of some of Andy's close friends were like, he wouldn't have really done that. Or, just some of the things like some of the excerpts from the book or the diaries was just like, yeah, the gal that wrote it, Pat, she kind of put in what she thought fit or what she liked. And it was a back and forth thing. They were, fighting over it. But, from what I was painted, the picture that was painted by Andy, no pun intended, I seemed like he was a low key guy, man. Like low key guy. And, he got a lot of shit. He got a lot of backlash. From his community there because they said he wasn't more outspoken about being gay, and he goes like, hey, is all his friends, like all his friends from when he was coming up, all his friends, they say that just wasn't him. And if you knew him, you knew him. He didn't have to tell you what he was. That wasn't, he didn't care about it. He said his whole thing was to make art, create art, and just stand out. It wasn't about that. And that again, you got a lot of backlash towards the end of it. He got a lot of backlash afterwards because he should have done. He should have been more of an activist. Because I think Keith Haring, he was more of a. He got to more of the activist side of it, which is fine. Teach their own. They're artists. They're free to do what they want. But that wasn't Andy's thing, man. That wasn't his bag, man. That wasn't his angle. His thing was just to make art, which I appreciate, man. I appreciate that, man. Like, I mean, I forget. He said he had a great quote about Liberace because he loved Liberace, and he was just like, he doesn't. Nobody. When I buy a ticket to go see Liberace, I don't care who he's sleeping with. I just care about the show he's giving me. That's it. It was I forget. I'm butchering the quote, I'm sure, but anyway, yeah, he was just saying that. But neither here nor there. It was just that part was just I thought that was kind of shitty that they gave him shit about not being more of an activist. And it's like, hey man, he don't have to do that, man. He's there. He's an artist, man. He doesn't have to do that. As it's towards towards the end of his career, he was doing like autograph. He was doing like autograph signing. He said he hated doing it, but he's just you have to find your way of doing things. And on this particular occasion, he wasn't too enthused about doing the signing. He was like signing autographs, and he said, there's a long line of people trying to get an autograph, and he goes, there's one chick kind of, he had a feeling it just kind of stood out about him, and he just, kind of weird about it, and he had those instincts. He goes, and before I could move or do anything, she had lunged at me and she took my wig off, and he goes, and I was so embarrassed, and he goes, I just covered up, and I was just like, I couldn't believe that somebody would do that to me. He goes, and it's just a lot of those stories I didn't know about, like taking his wig off. Like I said, I know he had wigs because he had a at cut to the beginning of the documentary, cut to the opening scene, and it's a young gal, and she's like showing the Andy Warhol museum. They're in his museum, this museum in New York, and she takes you down to this like basement area or this private room, and she pulls out all these cool things, like all these OIDs of Andy Warhol, uh, in his collection of wigs. It was like 20 wigs they had there, and it was a bunch of wigs out there, but and that was, he was just, he loved changing up his style and his look, and he was always trying to be edgy. He was always trying to do something different. As he wrapped up the documentary, it got to the part where it was the 80s, and at that time, uh, AIDS was running rampant, and it was a sad time. And at this time, Andy he was kind of feeling, he wasn't feeling well. And again, he went back to his gallbladder thing. He wasn't feeling well, and people were outraged because they were trying to say he was, oh, he's got AIDS, and he's sick from that. No, I said, and after it was all done, and the what you got the coroner, after they look at it, the autopsy or whatever, it was confirmed that it was his gallbladder. So all that shit was put to rest, because that's all that bullshit. But for him, leading up to that, he was really ill, and then that's when he started his last batch of artwork that he did, was called The Last Supper. The Last Supper, and what was it? It was a commission work from a gentleman from like Italy or something like that. So he was a commission work, and it was like The Last Supper. Did these prints, really pretty prints, like purple, real bright colors. And again, he went back to his roots, and he went back with the logos, like the mobile. I think it was like a motorcycle logo that he used, and two motorcycles, like Kawasaki's or something like that. But you could tell it was he went back to his way, and it did well. That that whole series did very well for him. The Last Supper, the Last Supper series. He had a lot of little prints that he had. They had nice little, and like I said, as I always do, I'll put images in here of the little sayings he had on his prints that he had there. They were really cool, really nice fonts and lettering and whatnot. But yeah, that's how he closed that out, and then started feeling bad, and he went to the hospital, and like I said, he went for a routine to go in there and get the gallbladder, fix it, and went under and didn't come back out. Man, he didn't get to say bye to anybody because it was just kind of really unexpected. So that was a shitty part. It was real shitty to lose, because I think that dude would still, if he was still around, he'd still be making print art and stuff. I imagine so. And he said at one point, he said that everybody is going to want to be famous. Everybody's going to want everybody's going to get their 15 minutes of fame. And he was pretty much right, because he pretty much hit the nail on the head, like now with social media. And he didn't know about social media. And he was just like, everybody's going to have their 15 minutes of fame. Everything's in and out. People are going to get bored with things extremely quick. And then that's why he's the way he was. His friends were saying in the documentary, his friends were saying he would have loved it now, because he loved changing things quickly. Like he didn't stay on trends too long, and he changed things really fast. But yeah, man, that documentary was great, man. Check it out, man. It'll suck you in, man. Like I said, six of them knocked them out real quick. I enjoyed them. A lot of information about him and his relationships, and things behind the scenes that you can see with him, and uh, it's great. I enjoyed it. Again, get my news from Instagram, as we know that. One of the things I came across I found really mind blowing, and I didn't think this would ever happen again. But books, man, bookstores are back on the rise, man. So they're gonna book since 2023, bookstores have been on the rise, and what it is people are wanting to get information, by touching things and reading things, and bookstores are back, man. They're coming back. They've grown by 33% in the last couple of years. Uh, I forgot I think it was what bookstore was it that opened up several new ones in the past few months. And what it is, people just want to get out. People want to be able to communicate like humans, and they put the phone down. In fact, there's a date coming. I don't know what the date is. I can't remember. It's pretty soon. I think it's this month of September, where people are going to supposedly for a day, put their phones down and all their and unplug and try to interact. I saw some things that were on social media that people plan to do, like painting parties, and like eating charcuterie, just kind of hanging out and doing things and having cocktails and just having conversations and at tables with no social media and no phones and everything. That's a good day to unplug, man. It doesn't hurt to do it. I do that every once in a while, and I'll get lost in a painting or something, or a drawing, and I'll won't touch the phone. I probably won't touch the phone all day until the end of the day when I'm done drawing or whatever the case may be. But I try to do that every once in a while, but it's tough, man, because you know you just gotta see you're missing out on something, right? We're always missing out on something, even though we're not missing out on shit. Um, but yeah, so bookstores are back, man. What it is, they say people like to go to the places. People, even bookstores are creating like an environment where you want to hang out. Like how what was it? The damn bookstore, like uh, what was it like in that movie? She's Got Mail. How the Fox, the Fox bookstore, how they had the coffee bar, the coffee spot in there, and he could lounge on these big couches and stuff. And the shop around the corner was getting hammered by them, and Tom Hanks was killing Meg Ryan, and it's a great movie, man. And but that's what it reminded me of, is like, because you're bringing back that fun again in the bookstore, where you can sit, you can look at the books, you can read them, and magazines. I hope magazines come back, because I love, like I said, I've talked about it before. Magazines are one of my favorite things. I love thumbing through a magazine, either be it a music, you know, magazine, or art magazine, or what's the cutting edge of the artist now? What are artists doing right now? What's the trend? Or sneakers, what's the coolest thing? And I love looking at a magazine, reading those things, instead of just scrolling sometimes. But yeah, bookstores are back, man, with the vengeance. So hopefully, you know, I'm gonna try to get out there and do some reading. I rarely do any reading. I just usually, the only reading I do is on my, X, and TikTok and stuff like that, which is sad, but that's what I do. But no, books. It's like, I remember when the Kindle came out, they thought that was gonna be the end of books. But if you're a purist, and you like the book and owning the book, you're gonna go buy books, and that's for me, it's just like a movie. Yeah, I can have it on my phone or whatever, but I do want it. I want to either a DVD, probably not DVD, but more of a VHS copy of it. I want that. It means more things, like it's the memories of the cover, all that stuff. Because yeah, you can download it on your phone, but to have it on your phone, but I want to have you know, I want to feel it. I want to hear it, the rattle of it. That's my favorite thing about a VHS. The bulkiness of it. You got the front image, and then in the back you got little images of what's going on, some of the best scenes in the back, and those little things are cool, man. I used to enjoy that. That's what my thing, perusing down the Blockbuster or the Hollywood video aisles, looking at the video, turning them over, reading it, and reading the synopsis of the movie. Those are things that you want to feel and touch it, and that's what people with books are doing now. They're going back to the store. They want to, and it's making people, about certain subjects, they're making them, instead of like deep diving on YouTube or something like that, they're going to, getting in a book and deep diving on something, on different topics. So it's nice to see books are coming back. Um, Always takes me back to Reading Rainbow. Always seeing LeVar Burton. That damn jingle, I can't get it out of my head. The damn butterfly. But yeah, man, books are they're on the come up, dude. And like I said, wasn't big of a reader. So, I'm an idiot, so I'm much of a reader. But when I can, like I said, I'll dive into some sport, into some news or some political shit, just because I like to know what's going on, and things are heating up right now. So I like to read on keep up what's going on, and who's being more ridiculous, what side's being more ridiculous, and for the most part, they're both ridiculous. But we'll see how things kind of turn out on that subject. We'll find out in November. But until then, grab a book, read a book, read something interesting. I'm a little excited. I can't wait for this. I have this weekend coming up. I have something pretty special happening at my new gig. What I do is, again, I get to be creative now at my new gig, and I enjoy it. I'm having a good time there, and like I said, this weekend I can't wait. I get my first chance to share my skills with the bigger audience, a bigger crowd, and it's starting to happen, and it's exciting times. It's exciting times. Being able to do this is to do the art, to share the art is great. To share all the little tricks that you think that are, oh, that's going to take me 6 hours to shade that in. It's always a quick trick or something like that. But to be able to now, to be able to finally just share these tricks and ideas that I've been storing in my internal bunker here, I get to share them with the new generation, the youth there. So should be fun, man. I'm excited for this. I'm gonna have some pictures. I'm gonna take some pictures and try to show what I can, because we gotta, it's a special thing, man. It's gonna be a special thing for me, and finally get to showcase this and get to explain this to the next generation, and hopefully they'll be into it. Again, it's that thing where there's when you don't have technology and there's no phone and there's no distractions and you get to be alone with your mind for a while. I think this is really going to benefit this youth is going to really benefit because they can take what I'm teaching them and they could take it to their when they're in their after hours and they can be creative, man. Don't let don't let the time get the best of you and use it to your advantage and draw some stuff, man. And you can create your own world. You know, that's what I try to tell them. You create your own world. You know, instead of having a diary or a journal where you write, you know, have a drawing journal and whatever you're feeling, whatever the case may be, draw it, man. And it's gonna be fun though. I'm excited to see how they take it and see if I can relate to the younger generation because I'm an old guy and you know I talk a certain way and but no, I'm kidding. It's gonna be fun to share what I do and to share the passion I have with these kids is gonna be. I can't wait. I can't wait to show them my inner Warhol and in a good way. Show them my inner Warhol and show them some tricks, man. Tricks that they think it's gonna that I could never do that or I could never draw that. You can. It's just repetition and letting the mind go. The part of the mind that says yes and no, the rational one, he's got to hit the road, man. You got to get that nutty one in there, that nutty guy that's in there uh, that doesn't have a care in the world. It's just that'll cut loose, man. You have to have that. You get it. And I had a hard time doing that, but now I do that, and it helps with the art and creativity. But anyway, I digress on that. Enough talk about myself. But again, if you have time, check out the Andy Warhol Warhol Dairies on Netflix. So like I said, it's from 2022, but it's still a good watch, man. I loved it. And the other thing is, go to the bookstore. Uh, as they would say, don't support the bookstore around the corner instead of supporting Fox Books. But yeah, teach their own. Do what you want to do with your money. Do what you want to do with it. But I will probably be hitting up Barnes and Noble or I forget what the other one is. But Barnes, as you see, I don't go to the bookstore that often. So Barnes and Noble, I'll probably go in there, grab a coffee, check out the art stuff, an Artsy episode. So we'll leave you with a Pablo Picasso quote, and it goes, "Every child is an artist, but the problem is how to retain the artist once we grow up." Keep making these. I'll keep pumping these out. Keep doing these things. Just stay tuned. Thank you.